Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition show. I'm James Slim Overton, and I'm here with co-host Leah Drake Stiff, and hopefully the Colonel will be tuning in shortly. But anyway, how you doing, Leah?
I am doing well. I'm well. Need
I'm
some
not.
rest from the weekend, but it's been a great weekend.
Yes, and we have a special guest with us this evening. I'm excited to get going and have a conversation with him. And Leah, if you will, can you introduce our special
I,
guest this
I am
evening?
excited to introduce our guest this evening. He's none other than my brother from the motherland, and none other than Mr. Benedict Phillips. Ben Phillips is from Liberia. However, he was educated in Germany and he has been in the United States for quite some time. Now, Ben is an RN and he is an excellent RN. He's a nurse extraordinaire, and I'll get into that later during the show.
But we definitely need the Colonel to come on now.
Yes, but Ben, he is just an amazing individual, a person who's trying to forge that relationship between African Americans and the motherland, especially the country of Liberia. So I'm extremely excited to have Ben on Portsmouth Coffee Talk to talk a little bit about the history of Nigeria because Liberia, because Liberia's history is very close to Virginia history, as well as some of the great things and projects that Ben has going on over in Liberia. So I'm going to say, welcome, Ben. Welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to come on to our show this evening.
And Leah, before you get started, let the Colonel know, since he just came on, that
Yes,
he's here with
Colonel.
a fellow nurse.
Ben is an RN, Colonel, so you would love that. We got two nurses on board today. Is he frozen? I
Okay,
think the Colonel's frozen.
he might be still streaming in, so
Okay.
just go ahead. He just
Okay.
turned it on.
Well, Ben, I've been blessed to have gone over to Liberia twice with you. And each time it has been an exciting adventure for me. Kind of what we were saying earlier is that Ben is also an RN. I guess he hasn't really come in yet. I thought he'd come in for a minute. But
Yeah.
anyway, Ben, we're just excited. How about sharing a little bit first about the history of Liberia, and then we can go forth from the projects that you are involved in and how you're trying to bridge that gap between African Americans and Liberia. So once again, welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we lost Ben. Ben will be back.
Hold on.
I can't hear a thing myself.
Okay, Ben is back.
Okay, Ben is back. Okay.
So I was just saying how first of all excited I am to be on the Coffee Talk. I am ecstatic to engage with this platform to kind of talk about my native country, Liberia, first, and Africa as a whole, especially to folks who are listening and watching this edition. Yes, I am from Liberia. As Leah stated, when the war started in Liberia in the early 90s, there were some of us who were very fortunate to have left the continent as a whole. I was able to have gone back to Germany. I went to Germany initially when I was 16 on an exchange program, a student exchange. And I just lived with this family there for a year. And I went back to Liberia to complete high school and everything else. Just long story short, the war came. We were still connected. They never heard from me for a few years. They thought I died. But later on, when things calmed down in Liberia, I did connect with them, and they were able to get me out of that destitute place at that time. And I completed my education in Germany, worked there for a few years, and because of the connection of Liberia and the United States. Most of my friends and families were already here, and I decided to join them. Guess what? On May 16th, to the date today, May 16, 1996, I got my suitcase full of books, my nursing books, and a backpack, and moved to Northern Virginia. And I've been here ever since. With just I stayed here for like 17 years before making the first trip back home, because at that time peace was still fragile. There was still uh, instability in Monrovia. There were still pockets of killings and all of these things that happened until 2005, when President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf took over under some peacekeepers and everything else. That I went back to Liberia, started going back to Liberia, started engaging with the population, visiting my school, visiting places that I've lived before, and just looking at if you've ever been to Liberia, and I've never taken anyone to Liberia who've never loved it. It's always you want to go back. The people are just hospitable. They're just unbelievably generous people, and that also has made me to be a part of helping my folks in any way I could, whether it's being a nurse or being a business person or otherwise, or helping school kids. When I think about how my life started from a little village in Liberia to where I come before you today and being on Coffee Talk, there's so much that had transpired, and that is something that I wish to let everybody know and everybody share, to kind of relate to people and help my country. Liberians are very selfish people. They never forget their country. They're very patriotic. So prior to the war, you don't know a lot of Liberians outside Liberia, because we were very okay with our country. We sat there, we went to school there, we built it, we loved it, we just didn't want to leave. Is the war actually that pushed Liberians out to experience other countries, even neighboring countries in West Africa. So I'm very pleased to be part of this platform to talk a little bit about my dear country, Liberia, and with the hope that I could again lead some other folks to come with me to Liberia, come experience my happy place. I call it my happy place because when you get to Liberia, there's this inexplicable satisfaction that overcomes you. I talked to Leah about this at Providence Island. That's the first, and I'm sure we'll talk about the historical context of Providence Island. That's the first place where the free slaves kind of settled. The first place that they saw and landed and started to negotiate from there. When we got to Providence Island, I usually kiss the ground, because it is just, I think, Leah, we have a picture of that, us kissing the ground.
We do.
Yeah. And it is just, it is just a rich history between Liberia and the United States. And that story has to be told. I think we've been quiet about it. And some other West African countries have, taken the mantle and ran with it. But we still have a story to tell about Liberia and the United States. And I am ecstatic. I'm happy to be a part of that discussion.
You're so right, Ben. And the fact that the first president of Liberia was from Norfolk, Virginia.
That is correct.
And
Yeah.
yes,
Joseph
yes.
Jenkins Roberts, who
Joseph Jenkins Roberts. Now, and
supposedly is the slave son. If you look at his picture, you might
they said he was an octoroon. He was an octoroon.
of
So
Thomas Jefferson. You know,
yes,
so,
yes.
so a
Thomas
lot.
Jefferson was out there.
And,
He
and
was out.
also when they formed that commission that took those freed slaves back to Africa,
American Colonization
250 left.
Society.
Yes, 250 left from Norfolk, Virginia to
Yeah.
go to Liberia.
Yeah.
And I think I also read that George Washington's nephew
Yes.
was a
Yes,
part of
yes,
creating that. He was almost like the first person in charge before
exactly.
they actually turned it over and gave Liberia their freedom. And like you said, the history is rich. As you talk about people saying, "All right, go back to Africa," they actually did.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They said, "Okay, we'll take you up on that," and went back to Africa.
Yeah.
So yes,
The story is told that the first group went. So how did they become? How did they get to Liberia? So apparently the first group went, and they were where present day Sierra Leone is
right.
located. Sierra Leone in the northern part of Liberia, northeastern part of Liberia. Then they landed over there, and they were terrorized by mosquitoes. And they said, well, a lot of us are dying here. Let's just change location a little bit. And they decided to move down south a little bit, and then they came to this opening, this part of Monrovia called Providence Island, which was just this nice opening. They were like, wow, this place looks good. Let's go find out if we can stay. And they got there, and they were embraced and welcomed by the chiefs and elders of that place. And they settled on Providence Island, and that's where the whole story of Liberia started.
Hey, you mentioned Monrovia.
Uh-huh.
Tell who that was named after.
So that was named after, and you mentioned Washington. So the American Colonization Society, which was like a NGO, Washington and his buddy James Monroe, the fifth president of Liberia, really worked on making sure that these free slaves returned. And when they did and settled and established Monrovia, Liberia, they decided to name the capital after James Monroe, the fifth president of the United States. So that's how Monrovia came about.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to Liberia, you notice how Americanized it is. Even in the names of the locations, the names are like Myrtle Beach,
Right.
names that we know.
Maryland.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Virginia,
I saw that in the history of Maryland.
yes.
I have to ask this, and as we talk about Washington, Monroe, and Jefferson, all those people involved as far as coming there, what do you think their agenda was? Or what was their motivation for? Were they trying to at first establish an American presence, which they kind of did in Africa? And then, I guess, I don't know if they had a thought of conscience and said, okay, now we have to give these people the freedom like we fought for. So I don't know if that was the case, but I'm thinking that maybe they had some sort of agenda, for bringing you all back in the beginning, which might have been more than what it actually turned out to be. What do you think about that? You think it was more of a...
And this is my perception. I think it had to do with the idea of lessening the black race in America. That's what I think. So
back to Africa.
back to Africa. So let's afford them this opportunity to look like because it was all like a missionary work, right? It said they wanted to have folks who would volunteer to spread the gospel in the new world, you know.
Mm.
So these people are like, okay, sign me up, and let's. So majority of these people happen to just
The new
be,
world. That's funny.
right. A lot of black people, a lot of black people. Like, okay, well, I'm tired laboring here in Norfolk, Virginia. Let me go try my luck in West Africa, and I think that's my personal thought here. I've not read this anywhere. I think that's what it was, but it turned out to be something good.
But it was also said that they
Kind
were
of that way now.
Yeah.
they were afraid of what was going to take place if these persons were freed. They didn't know what was going to take place, and so they were really trying to really get them out of Virginia and get them on send them back to Africa.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to expect. Should freedom come for them? So
yeah, couldn't have free slaves. No.
Yeah,
Because they might rebel against us.
exactly.
That's what they were worried about.
Now, Roberts was a freed slave. He was the octoroon who eventually
Right.
became the president of Liberia.
Right.
But he had a business out of Petersburg, Virginia.
Right.
He had a shipping business out of Petersburg, Virginia, when he decided that he was going to go back to Africa and take his family with him.
Yeah. And a lot of them just kind of followed and became statesmen in Liberia and created a functioning government or functioning
Yes.
country. Yeah.
And they formed the government like the American government. They
That is
mirrored
correct.
the American government. And you have the same type government over there, same color flag, but just one star on it.
Right.
So,
And the Constitution was the same. They just removed where it is the United States and inserted Liberia and built a capital, just like in Washington, D.C., the White House is there, and opposite there is the Capitol with the Congress and everything. Same way, the executive mansion in Liberia, and then the Capitol building there with the dome, all of it the same. Just really no hard work. Let's just replicate this thing and call it something else. And
yes,
that's how it worked. Yeah. And people don't talk about this much. Obviously, the first few years were okay, and then the indigenous people and the new arrived folks had a little tussle here and there, and that goes back to the generosity I talked about for Liberian people. So, if you went to Liberia today and you wanted 100 acres of farmland for really nothing, you can get it, right? Because people are just like welcoming. They want to show how generous they are. So that same thing happened in 1822, obviously down to 1847, when the folks from the United States came. They were given the best lands, best part of the land, the hilltop, and all of these things, the high hills and everything, not knowing these positions, these high top hills, they were used as garrisons and put their cannons and stuff like that to fire upon the indigenous people when confusion broke out. And you will see all of this. You go to Monrovia, where Susanna Lewis stood with the cannon, fire upon the people in the low hills of the Bassa Cove and all of that kind of stuff. So our generosity sometimes have been used against us in Liberia, and it still extends to a lot of other things that we can talk about. We talk about Chinese influence now in Liberia.
And that's in a lot of African countries now. The Chinese
Yeah,
are becoming very prominent in these countries now.
yeah, they're all over the continent. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The Ben, you mentioned the indigenous people, and it's been everything Americanized, and the American English is the main language, but you do have, I saw it's about 20 different indigenous languages spoken there, and I wonder if also the customs, are still practiced, outside of being Americanized, and is that what maybe caused the Civil War or some of the uprisings that people were going against, the traditional Americanized country, and they wanted to really celebrate their culture. Yeah, was that mainly the cause of the Civil War?
So it's not directly, but so let's talk about the first 100 years of Liberia's existence. So yes, so we have the folks from the United States who obviously have descendants and all of that, right? So they come, like for example, my name is Benedict Phillips. Like I'm a 100% Liberian, my I don't know. So how did I get the name Benedict Phillips, for example? Right? So
you named after Benedict Arnold.
Yeah.
No, that's just a joke. I don't think that's the case. But it's an American name. That's all.
Right. So they came, and obviously the indigenous folks are there to help in everything possible. And if they came and like, okay, they got this family, these people are helping them up in the like whatever they were engaged in, they changed the names of the folks, right? So if the person said, my name is Yakbaulo, they'd be like, what? Okay, your name is Benedict from today, right? And
your name is Toby.
Right. So that became something they did. And so now I who have been called whatever before I became Benedict, I now begin to think I am, I am a returnee or whatever else. I got stature. If you've ever heard Americo-Liberians, and this is where the little trouble started brewing from 1822 coming up on the 1847 independence. That these people now, the indigenous people started feeling marginalized, minimized, because now all of those in government are Americo-Liberians. So they have names like Benedict Phillips. Their children go to the best schools, and just what has been practiced here when they were here became the order of the day. This went on up until 1980. That's like over 100 and how many more years since 1847. And you could see that in Liberia, in the government, in prestigious places, that the indigenous folks were feeling marginalized. They never felt part of their own country anymore. You have to have names like Benedict Phillips to be anything, to go to the better universities and all that. So this thing perpetuated until 1980. I'm sure you've heard of the name Samuel Doe. That's General Samuel Doe, who, with some other folks, and nobody ever knows how this thing ever went down, when an overthrew President Talbot and seized power to get rid of corruption, to get rid of nepotism, to get rid of mostly Americo-Liberians who've tied their country down, and they felt Samuel Doe was representing the indigenous people. So then that now started with the indigenous folks versus the folks from the United States. And that's how things started until Samuel Doe, 10 years later, after plummeting the country and everything else, started to execute his lieutenants, his friends who all went with him to do all this. That just happened that he singled out a special group within that group that came from a different county or that came from a different part of Liberia. And they themselves felt marginalized as well. Brought up this war in 1989. Charles Taylor, the name, took advantage of that group. Let's go take him on. And it just started spreading all over the place. Deeper and deeper.
And and when you go to Liberia, you can see the remnants of the prosperity that once existed in Liberia.
Yeah.
Still, the great hotels and where the houses and all were, and all of that was lost due to the war. The war destroyed the country, and so the country is now in a rebound mode under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. You could see some changes taking place, and once Ellen Johnson left, got another president who was a soccer player, their Donald Trump president.
Right.
And but they didn't keep him long. They put him out of office, and now they have someone in office who's trying to do some things to make the country better. Right. Now, Ben, I want you to know I've sent this out to our Liberian family, to Moses and to Gloria and to Kwame. So I know the time change is different, so they'll have to be able to see you later.
Absolutely.
Later. Yes. But yeah, so you can see the remnants of the beauty of what's existed. And so, Ben, I don't want the time to get away without talking about the mission that you have been on. James looked like he has something to say before you talk about the mission.
I was gonna try to let Colonel get in there a little bit before you go into that, Leah, if you will.
Come on, Colonel.
I think he has his sound now. Okay.
Yeah.
Very well, Colonel.
Yeah, all right. You got a bad connection down here. I'm down in North Carolina today. And then so I've been here the week. So when you talk about Liberia, and I think the United States is finally catching up with the importance of countries in Africa in a whole. Because I remember doing my final paper for when I was taking a course called Strategic Strategy in for the Army. And my final paper was on Africa and how the military in America did not pay enough attention to the continent of Africa. And now we're getting around to that. And normally when we and other countries try to, when you come up on their radar, they're there to either go get oil, your minerals, or whatever, to just almost like robber barons. So saying that, your population of Liberia is what, and what is your main industry?
The population currently, per census 2 years ago, is 5 million, about 5 million folks. Liberia's industry, well, we export everything. So we export our minerals. That's iron ore, rubber, timber, gold, diamond. We thought we had oil at some point. Chevron checked that out. That didn't pan out. So we import everything from our staple food to now we were #1 rubber producer in the 60s and 70s, but we don't have a rubber processing plant. We don't make gloves. We don't make tires. We Firestone, that is the rubber owners of the other farms, other plantations in Liberia, process everything outside of Liberia and sold the tires to us on our cars. Also, the gold, the diamond, none of that is processed in Liberia. It is all out of the country. They are now trying to put some kind of some agreements together, but I think that cat has left the bag already. I know Firestone had a 99 years lease on multiple, multiple, I don't know how many acres of land or
I
hectares
think
of
it was
land.
1 million acres. I think it was 1 million acres, Ben, the last I checked.
Yes. And at either 7 cents an acre or $7 an acre.
Yep.
You know, that's interesting. That whoever signed that is almost like we had a Confederate governor that signed and sold this tunnel between Norfolk and Portsmouth and got a 50-year lease on that, and we've been paying 50 plus years, and so we'll be paying off that forever. So whoever signed that 99-year lease
Yeah.
needs to be taken out to the woodshed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that just needs to be renegotiated
Yes.
myself.
So Colonel, it will even make you more angry that lease agreement was renewed by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf after she assumed power after war and all of that to another 99 years. So they're thinking about
But Ben, not still at 6 cents an acre, is it? They were
huh?
paying six. They were paying 6 cents an
Six
acre.
cents an acre, yeah. 6 cents.
Yes.
Yeah,
An acre,
it's crazy.
yeah.
6 cents.
6 cents an acre of land. So yeah.
It's crazy. Now
Yeah.
that person does not need to be in government.
Right. Right.
Yes, does not be in
So
government.
there were so many things. I grew up in an iron ore mining town. My dad worked over there, and that mine was owned by Germans. They comparing all of the concessions that were there, and the Swedish folks up towards the Ivory Coast, they had a little bit of a better intention. They went over there with the intention to actually live there. So they paved the roads. They gave the folks that they live with, like the school I went to, was not your typical African school. It had labs. It had 24 hours electricity. It had like they build it like they build schools in Germany, and that kind of really helped that segment of the people to get good education and even health. They had their own electrical grid. They supply half of Liberia during the rainy season, and they ran that place like they were running their own republic. And some of us benefited from that, from the education and the good health that it had. But all of that now just obviously went to nothing after the war, and it destroyed everything. Um,
Are the
but the
Chinese
other,
there?
yes, so the Chinese are now in charge of where I'm talking about. This company that they had the houses and everything else. The Chinese went there and again broker with the current government at the time, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government, and they had a wise idea to move all the folks out of the houses and de-roof the houses and just let the grass grow. Now it's just forested the whole place, so no one lives there. So with all of with all of the things we try to do and help out in Liberia, like currently that hospital I told you about. Uh, I'm a part of a group here of some of us that live in our community and went to school there and now live in the United States. We have a non-profit organization that is just really catering to that particular part of Bone County, they call it. The hospital was a robust, nice hospital. Thankfully, the structure is still in place. So we decided to just re-electrify it using alternative energy because the whole thing with fuel was not sustainable. So we have embarked upon a project. It's cost us $80,000. We are in the last phase of it. In the next few weeks, we've paid like 70,000. I think we're just like 10 or 15,000 away for the last 2 years to just put solar panels. And I was just there in November. What month is this? This is May. I was there in March to inspect it, and they're doing pretty good because we want to have stable electricity first before we can have volunteer doctors and nurses go there to help folks in that remote part of Liberia and to help our people out. But the Chinese are there. They own the place, but they are not interested in the health and education of the people that live there. So we have decided to take over that responsibility to do it. So we are establishing a hospital, reestablishing it, putting everything back into it, and also the schools there, because we want our folks to be able to feel educated, because education is what drives a sustainable Liberia. I mean, if the folks are not educated, they'll keep making bad choices. They will make soccer players presidents and all of that. Nothing against soccer players, but in Liberia, if you are a soccer player, you are not regarded as, so our dads were hit seeing us playing soccer. I'm just saying.
You're an athlete. You're an athlete. That's what you are. You're an athlete.
Just like we did over here, we made an active president and
someone governor
and Trump.
All of that.
So
I don't know.
Reality star. So
Are you through, Colonel?
And obviously the overarching thing for me is, I have lived here for so long, and I have interacted so many times with African Americans. If I had my will, if I had the money, if I was so rich, I would offer schools, institutions. You talk about HBCUs, for example. I will make sure that all of the African studies departments visit Liberia. Take kids down there to see where it started, how it's going, and all of that, to really understand us here, to really foster that bond between U.S. African Americans and African Americans from Africa, and then taking them back to Africa. I really would like to have folks come with me. It's not expensive to go to Liberia. Liberia is also not very far. You will live if you come. You'll be just fine if you come with me. In as much as you take if you're diabetic, you take your pills with you, take your glucometer and all of that stuff with you, and you will be okay.
Well, I need to share a little
it's interesting you say that about the HBCU schools, and that would be an excellent idea if you got with some of the presidents and did an exchange program, especially if some of these kids could come down there and intertwine and actually consult with your government to keep to help them make wiser decisions, because the decisions that your administrations have continued to make are not in the best interest of the people with some of these deals you get. And you have to understand the reason I bring up the Chinese are not your friend. They are coming there to take care of your natural and resources, and to just strip the land clean.
Their own interests. That's all they care about.
Leah, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I said.
And then the other part is percentage of poverty within your country. Is what?
Oh, if I had to put the percentage of poverty, I mean, Liberia is I think among the 10 poorest countries in the world. I think they They're like ranking up very, 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 very high. I think they're very close to being one of the poorest countries currently. Uh, I don't have a percentage. I don't know, but
Mm.
it will be extremely, extremely, extremely high.
Yeah, and that's
It is high.
unfortunate.
I can't
That's
think of.
unfortunate because it's a environmentally beautiful country. It's a coastal
Yeah,
country. It's the
Right, right on
rainforest
the ocean.
and everything
absolutely.
like that, and
Yeah.
the white sand on the beach. So hopefully, as they recover from all the things that have happened, that a lot of that will be taken advantage of.
However, I still, as a Liberian, and that may just be hope, but so we are underpopulated for the land mass that we have. We are extremely still rich in natural resources. Um, if if people do the right thing, if the governance is correct and everything else, this whole trajectory can turn in less than 10 years uh, to have roads, infrastructure, all of these developmental stuff. But our folks, the thing that is keeping us behind, that has been the biggest hindrance, is obviously corruption, which is really tearing us down.
Yes, yes.
And the new president been so far? How has he been prevailing? The new president.
So I am. So obviously he's better than the soccer player. So
Yes, yes,
that
yes.
is a that is is he's just getting that guy up there is a big help. That because all right, again, nothing against the former president or, but he just at where Liberia is currently, we need a strategic, firm person who really understands how things work in the world, how business work, how the world turns, pretty much, to understand and to lead Liberia. Liberia is just fragile. It's there's you have to have someone who's very strategic. Our new president just came to the States last week, and I wish I was in Dallas to just kind of just let him know that they keep doing these same things, right? They assume
Hmm.
power, they come to the West, they get lectured and go back. Then going to these other capitals that have turned things around, like Rwanda, for example. Uh, that's a place to go to find out. Rwanda and us were in the same boat in 1990 when they had their genocide, their destruction, and everything else. But go back to Rwanda today; it's black and white. How are they doing it? We are richer than them. We are smaller than them. We are everything than them. But they were able to turn around. These are places I would go to find out why are they doing right. But again, it's all this corruption and no focus about things. You can't, for example, you can't run a country if you don't have a electrical grid. For example, you can't.
Hmm.
There are no investors going to come there if you don't
Yes,
have
yes.
electricity. You can't have good hospitals if you don't have electricity. You probably won't have good schools if you don't have electricity. So focus on the things that expands your country than just other little things. I don't know.
Well, I just wanted to say I mentioned in the beginning of the show that Ben is an RN. So if you have to travel uh, anywhere, to travel with an RN is always a special situation that you find in the situations you find yourself in. While we were in Africa, my brother had a stroke. We were in Africa, and we didn't have access to a lot of the medical uh, uh, items needed in order to deal with his stroke while he was there. And I tell you what, Ben took us back to, you remember the old MASH movies when the guys out in the field, the soldiers out in the field and have to get to the hospital? Well, Ben got a planter. He put a pole in the planter, used the blood pressure cup so that he could get the IV to give my brother the IV. He took medicine over there with him. he took care of my brother, and the kids stood around my brother the whole time. They were fanning him the entire time while Ben was taking care of him. And Ben is the reason that he is where he is today. And for that, Ben, I want to say thank you. And if I always travel, I travel with Ben. But not only would Ben be a good nurse for you, should you decide to go to Africa, Ben will take you to all of the places that you need to go, all the things that you need to see. uh, Ben will definitely make sure that you have a trip of a lifetime. And that's why I've been back 3 times, because it is a special place to visit. Yes, the poverty is great, but the people are amazing in
Yeah.
Liberia.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I feel like I'm home. When I go to Liberia, I really feel like I'm home when I go there. And I know I took my daughter and my granddaughter, and they too felt like they were home when we went to Liberia because of the hospitality of the people there in Liberia. They have beautiful hotels, beautiful hotels. Like you said, it's on the ocean, and it's just some great things going on in Liberia. It got some things they need to work on, true, but some good things are happening in Liberia. And James, I can hear you.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I was looking at a map here, and and I looked at some pictures of the of a popular area, like you mentioned the hotels and the mountains.
It's a beautiful
Just
place.
looking at that. And I had a question about looking at the map. What kind of relationships do you have with the connecting countries? The countries that are directly, I think one of them, I don't know if I'm gonna pronounce this right,
Sierra Leone, Sierra
Sierra
Leone.
Sierra
Leone,
Leone and
Guinea, Ivory
Guinea,
Coast,
yeah.
and Ivory
What kind
Coast.
is there any kind of relationships y'all have with them as far as just working together for any kind of common goal?
Absolutely, yes. So these West African countries, we and Sierra Leone um, have had very great relationships. We've had shared troubles, by the way, um, especially during the war. The rebel leader from this end kind of collaborated with the rebel leader from that place. We are very related. We compare notes. They are in the same boat like us. They've also had times of ravaging wars and getting out of it. They are doing. I don't know. I stopped following what's happening in Sierra Leone, but we collaborate on a lot of things. During Ebola, for example, Guinea, Liberia, Ivory Coast, and Sierra Leone collaborated a lot in containing Ebola. So they have West African unions, the ECOWAS, which is Economic Community of West African States, which is like our regional organization. They kind of collaborate to identify and treat things that are upcoming. For example, when we had a civil war, the ECOWAS, this regional comprising of like 16 countries with Nigeria at the top, formed a peacekeeping troop. Obviously, the UN and the US probably underwrote the cost, but they actually took charge to quell the violence and negotiate with all the rebel leaders, and they are the reason today that probably the war in Liberia was able to come to an end. They sent peacekeepers. Some of them lost their lives in that war, but they really helped Liberia with that regional effort of the peacekeepers. Because at the time, and if you look at images from that time, the United States has turned Liberia's civil war as a sovereignty issue. So they were not going to be involved into sovereign issues in Liberia. So as much as the Liberians wanted their involvement, because Americans can't do anything wrong in Liberia. That's just our relationship. they would have come there with just really one military personnel and said, stop the war, and it would have really stopped. But they wouldn't. They would put ships on the Atlantic to see what's happening, right behind their embassies to see what's happening, but they wouldn't put a boot on the ground. And there was one part of the war that I still remember where we were so desperate and destitute that when people were shelled and shot, they took their bodies and stocked them in front of the U.S. Embassy up to the walls of the embassies.
Oh, wow.
And that did not move them at all to do anything. So bravo to those who I really appreciate my West African countries, my West African brothers and sisters who had come out to help us to really help us to save a lot of lives during the conflict in Liberia.
Wow.
That is another show right there. I mean,
that's a whole nother show.
Another show.
And Leah, I have to say this: we haven't mentioned Bismarck and his role there. Of course,
he was the ambassador. He was an ambassador to Liberia.
Him being there, that's when I first really started paying attention to that country.
Right. Yeah, Bismarck was a great ambassador there too, because
he was.
Even the times when I went there and I mentioned his name, although he had not been ambassador there for years,
it's the 80s.
People still remembered Bismarck Marriott in Liberia.
People still remember certain ambassadors. Bismarck's name is one of those. They're like maybe 4 or 5 ambassadors that we remember who had an impactful time in Liberia during real turning point times, and he was one of those.
And unfortunately, he had to leave during one of the height of the of the war. Yeah.
Ben Maisha say,
"You only do for so much."
Love you, dude. That's because Maisha and Ben's joke, for you both way joke.
I told her about my patient here in Northern Virginia who, obviously I'm African. You see me, so she thought I would have a real terrible name. So I played into that. I went into the patient's room and I was like, "Hello, my name is Yebovoy." She's like, "Oh." So she said, "Oh, that's a nice name, but can I call you you?" Because she couldn't pronounce Yebovoy, So she said, "Can I call you you?" I said, "No, you can't.
Just call me Ben."
I said, "Only my friends call me you."
Yes, indeed. But Ben, are you taking a group over to Liberia?
I'm hoping. I am currently opening up applications or time for those who would like to go. I like to take some folks over probably in March of 2025. And so currently I'll be letting folks let me know that they have expressed interest to make that trip. And we'll line up some very historical events and places to see. And again, it will be a trip of a lifetime. It will be memorable. You can be any age to come. You can bring your kids. You can bring yourself. You can bring your parents. Anybody. Have a piece of that history in Liberia.
Let me just
airlines fly to Liberia. It's not, again, when I say Liberia, it's not far. So now we have a 9.5-hour flight to Ghana, and then 1 hour 40 minutes you're in Monrovia. Or you can go through Europe and do the 11 hours, 6 hours to Brussels or 7, and then 6 hours to Liberia. Our president was just here talking to Delta the other day about going to Liberia. So Delta might be going back to
Yeah, because
Liberia.
Delta was going to Liberia when I went the first time.
Yeah, and then they
But
stopped.
did they stop because of the conflict?
No, they stopped because sometimes our airport will not have electricity and have them rerouted
Mm.
and all of these things. And then also the runways were not clean
Long
enough,
enough.
and there were these particles that were hitting their planes. Every time they came from there, they had to put their plane in service, and folks could not get that rectified. So I think they have done that now. So they want to see if they can go back. Investments from African Americans were picking up in Liberia. Robert Johnson, for example, the owner of I don't know, he still owns BET, but had a resort over there, Kenneja, and he was in close relations. He was one of those who engineered things for Delta to go to Liberia, and his resort is
I,
still there, but under a different management now.
I think a lot of people probably have tickets on hold in case Trump gets back in office. So
Oh yeah, we all need to move. We all need
Liberia's
to move down to
population might increase
Increase,
vastly.
yes. We in as much as you of Negro descent, you can own land in Liberia. I can make it happen. So if you want some beach land somewhere, let me know.
Ben is going
That's
to go back and become a politician in Liberia. But before we leave, I just want to mention about the hospitality of the people in Liberia. When I took Maisha and my granddaughter over and my brother, we went over with Ben, and we had made reservations at this place that looked really nice online. The Lutheran guest house. Lutheran looked really good online. And we got there. My granddaughter said, "Oh, Gigi, tell me we're not going to stay here, please, Gigi." Ben says, "Come with me." He said, "Come with me. We're going to go to my brother's house for dinner." And he said, "Bring your luggage with you." So we're going to dinner to John's house. We're going to John's place. And when we get to John's place, the guys come out and they grab our luggage and they're taking our luggage into the guest house. We said, "What's going on, Ben? We thought we were coming to dinner." But John had actually opened his house to us. Maisha, Leah, and I had a room. Johnny had a room. Ben had a room. And they had someone there in the morning who cooked our breakfast. They washed our clothes. I got pictures of Johnny. The guys came and gave him a shave with just a little razor that they used to use a long time ago. And but Ben and his family opened their doors to us. They provided us with cars that we traveled in to the different places that we went throughout Liberia. But that's the type of hospitality. But Ben was the president of a bank over there in Liberia. And so we stayed with Ben and his wife and his son. And
You
we
mean
had
John, my brother.
I mean, John, your brother. I'm calling him Ben. But we stayed with John and his wife and John's son and had an amazing stay in Liberia. But that's how hospitable the people are in Liberia.
Yeah, and that's hospitality. Ben, you real quick, you mentioned before we came on air that your goal is to retire and go back. And I know the United States has been good to you here, but talk about, I can understand you wanting to go back to your homeland and do what you can to make it better. And going back with the credentials you have definitely will help, over there. So just talk about your goal as far as wanting to go back once you retire from here, even though you had a good life here.
Yeah. So I really have had a good life here. Germany, United States have done me good. But there is just that Liberianism inside me that not to travel, not to leave Liberia forsaken or whatever. Not only that, I think my life expectancy will expand when I move to Liberia. I would eat
You're probably right.
I would eat natural foods that are not processed. I will live the simple life. I will have inner peace and satisfaction. I will not be chasing after the whatever. I don't know what I chase every day, right?
Right.
I want to, and I'm doing early retirement. Okay, I'm doing early retirement because I want to be able to still walk and still run and still
Exactly.
climb and still do all of these and still talk while I'm back there. That is the only way I can give a lot back to the folks I meet. I still want to encourage folks who have come. You know, look, the United States is great. There's nothing. It's the best country on earth, pretty much. But you know, there is that thing where that keeps within you that you want to there are a lot of things that you have been blessed with that you can even be a more blessing. For me, that's the thing. I have 3 children and they are all adults now, but I tell them it is not, you know, what comes back to you. It could go back to your children, your relatives, and other things, other people. It is just about the spirit that I want to give back, because to be here today, there are a lot of people that have blessed me, who I didn't know from anywhere, who've helped me to be what I am. And I want to be able to help folks like that in Liberia. I know Leah mentioned I want to be a politician there. I don't know about that, but currently, mostly
I'm going to be his campaign manager when he goes to run in Liberia. I'm going to be his campaign manager.
Mostly in the business world. Currently, I'm encouraging like-minded Liberians like me to establish a subdivision. So last year, I went to Liberia, bought a 12 acres land to erect a subdivision of folks who live here in the U.S. but want to have a place in Liberia, either as business or whatever they want to do. But this place will be a residential area. It's on a river. It is going to be well designed and stuff like that. One of the hindrances one of the things that prevent people who are here working and doing that in Liberia is that the trust issue. They send money to their families and stuff like that, and that doesn't get to where it's supposed to go. So I've put myself in that gap to say, I will handle that for you. I will deal with that here for you. You will live on this place. I will sell part of that land and you can build your house. But there are rules to that. It will be like here. It is a residential area. It's not a commercial area. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have a carport. You have a driveway. You have this. You can't whatever. If you don't live here, you can't do this. You know. So I've already sold out that place, and I would be helping them to build their homes over there. So that's how I'm going to get back onto that. And there's so many opportunities in Liberia, endless opportunity, business and otherwise, that African Americans here who think they can expand their businesses in Liberia, I'm willing to help as well, because again, the Chinese are there, they are prospering. The Lebanese are there. They are prospering.
Lebanese are there.
Yeah. I mean, the entire economy of Liberia is almost in the hands of those people. So we want to go back and help our people, teach our folks that we can do these things as well, and help with structure in our country to make it better.
Yeah, that's what it's going to take. So we're ending up this intriguing conversation, and hope we get a chance to do it again. But I'll go to you, Colonel. You're a world traveler, and you might have some ending comments. I don't know if you've ever been to his country, but you've been over in Africa, if I'm not mistaken, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, but not as extensively as I've been more extensive traveling in Asia, and in Europe and Asia has been my, I've been traveling. I still haven't, I got to do that. And actually South America is another one I need to start traveling with, but I will get there. So, but I'd like to thank you for coming on and spreading the knowledge and then you got to go back, and I think you need some help in the governmental area, because these other countries are robber barons to you, and you can't get ahead with allowing that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's my advice to you, and advice to the administration there.
Absolutely. Thank you. And the invite is as open as possible to you as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, Ben, my brother, I'm always pleased to be in your presence, to have you on Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And you have been like a brother to me since the first day I met you, when Johnny was having problems getting his visa.
Yes.
And you made sure you worked hard. You worked hard to go into the embassy. And we didn't think he was going to be able to go because his visa still had not come when it was time for us to leave. But you went there and you worked miracles getting that visa done for him. You worked miracle when he had that stroke in Africa, keeping him healthy until we can get him back to the States. When he got to the States, the doctor said he should not even have been here, considering what he had been through. But it's because of you and what you did that he was able to survive during that time. Ben, I just appreciate you so very much, you and Comfort and the kids. And all of Ben's kids are VIPs. Each one of them, Vernon, Vanessa, and Vincent. All of their initials are VIPs. And that's just to show that they have something to hold on to. It means a lot when you give names that, even it's not really the name, but the lettering within their names, let them know that they're very important people. So I want to thank you so very much, Ben, and I just look forward to helping you in any way that I can, and we're going to make some things happen. I know it's going to happen because of the enthusiasm that you have and the love that you have for your country. And as I say to those out there who are listening, yes, it's a lot like America, but maybe America in the years past. But in our being able to help, we can bring the country back up to where it used to be before all of the wars and all took place within the country. So, Ben, I thank you so very much, and I love you more than words can ever express.
I love you too, Leah.
And thanks again, Ben. When I found out you were a nurse, nurses hold a special place in my heart, and emphasis on heart. But it seems like, listening to all the things that you have done here, that your worth goes well beyond being your nursing career. And I hope it's 10,000 more people like you that will be ready to go back to your homeland, or just go there, period, to make a difference there. And it sounds like that's what you're willing to do. And I'm sure it's many other people willing to do the same. We hope peace remains there, and good judgment. That's going to be important for your survival. So thanks again for coming on, and hopefully we can get you back on. And maybe one of those times when you're in Liberia, you can come on from Liberia. So
what is the time there now, Ben?
4 hours. They have 4 hours ahead, so it's 9 after midnight there right now.
Also, so Gloria and Moses and Kwame and all, they're in bed, so they can watch this in the morning.
You can watch the reruns.
I'll send them a little note that they can watch it in the morning. Okay.
That's right.
Okay, thanks everybody for watching Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition. And remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share this important information. We know a lot of you like those other shows that entertain, but we educate here. So make sure you share and watch us on YouTube. Watch our YouTube channel that's out there forever. This is very important information that we bring to you each and every week. We appreciate it. And pay attention to the scroll below. If you want to support us financially in any kind of way, the information is right there for you to do it in any way you feel comfortable doing it. Thanks a lot. We appreciate you. See you, co-host, and see you, Ben. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great one.